You came home with a report card full of A's and your mother barely looked at it. She wanted to know if you held the door for the woman behind you, if you said yes, ma'am, to your teacher, and whether your shirt was tucked in straight. That was a 1960s black mother. School gave you spelling tests and multiplication tables, but she was teaching the things no teacher had a textbook for. She taught it at the kitchen table, on the front porch before sunrise, and in the car on the way to church. The lesson at number 16 was something she considered more urgent than any homework assignment. Number 8 turned the oldest child in every household into a second parent. And what she passed down at number 3 stayed with you longer than anything a classroom ever could. Here are 25 life lessons, 1960s. Black mothers taught that no school ever did. Number 25. Speak when you enter a room. In a 1960s black household, walking into a room full of adults without opening your mouth was a violation. You said good morning, you said good afternoon, you addressed every person by name or by title, and you did it clearly enough that everyone in the room heard you. Your mother knew that a black child who stayed silent in a room was not seen as reserved. That child was seen as disrespectful, and disrespect carried consequences that reached far beyond the front door. She taught you to announce your presence because the world was never going to announce it for you. The children who learned it still walk into rooms the same way at 65. Number 24. Keep your business out of the street. Whatever happened inside that house stayed inside that house. If your parents argued, the porch was not the place to mention it. If money got tight, the neighbors did not hear about it. Your mother enforced this with one sentence that could freeze any child mid-step. What happens in this house stays in this house. In a decade when a social worker could appear over a rumor and a white employer could let someone go based on neighborhood gossip, privacy was not vanity. It was armor. She was shielding her family from systems that turned personal information into leverage. The children who learned that lesson earliest trusted the fewest people with their truth. Number 23. Never go to somebody's house empty-handed. It did not matter if you were visiting for 5 minutes or 5 hours. You brought something: a plate of food, a bag of fruit, a pound cake wrapped in foil. Your mother understood that showing up with nothing in your hands told people something about your home. It said nobody taught you. In black neighborhoods, a child who arrived empty-handed at a neighbor's door was corrected before they crossed the threshold. You do not take without giving, and you do not enter someone's home as if you are owed a place at the table. A dish in your hands said your family raised you right. Number 22. Eat whatever is put in front of you. Your mother did not ask what you wanted for dinner. She told you what dinner was. If it was neck bones and rice, that was the meal. If it was lima beans and cornbread, you ate it or you went to bed hungry. Complaining was not tolerated. Wasting food was worse. In a kitchen where every ingredient had been stretched to feed 4 or 5 mouths, turning your nose up at a plate was an insult to the labor that put it there. The fork went into your hand, the food went into your mouth, and the only word that belonged at the end of that meal was thank you. Pickiness was a luxury her household could not stock. Number 21. Iron your own clothes before you leave this house. A wrinkled shirt was not a fashion choice, it was a verdict, and not the kind your mother was willing to accept. In black households where appearance was the first thing judged before a single word was spoken, the iron was not optional. She taught you to set up that board, heat that iron, and press your own collar before the sun came up. A child who could iron their own clothes did not need to depend on anyone else to look presentable. That skill started at the ironing board and followed you into job interviews, church services, and every room where first impressions carried weight. Number 20. Stay out of grown folks' conversation. When the adults were talking, children were invisible. You did not perch on the arm of the couch and listen in. You did not repeat what you overheard, and you absolutely did not offer your opinion. Go play meant the conversation was not for your ears, and if you lingered too long, a look from your mother could move you faster than any raised voice. Grown folks' conversations often involved money trouble, job losses, or family matters that could frighten a child if heard out of context. She was drawing a boundary between childhood and the weight of adult reality, and she drew it early. Number 19. A hard head makes a soft behind. Every black child raised in the 1960s heard this phrase, and most heard it dozens of times before the age of 10. It was not a threat. It was a forecast. If you refused to listen, consequences would arrive on their own schedule. Your mother said it before you made the mistake, not after. She gave the warning, and then she let the outcome do the teaching. In neighborhoods where a wrong decision on the street could cost a child far more than a scolding at home, stubbornness was not a trait she could afford to let grow. She repeated herself so the world would not have to. Number 18. Get your education because nobody can take it from you. In a decade when black families watch jobs disappear, businesses close, and entire neighborhoods get bulldozed for highway construction, education was the one asset that could not be seized, repossessed, or burned down. Your mother said this with a certainty that left no room for debate. She may not have finished school herself, but she understood exactly what a diploma could unlock in the hands of a child who had been told to expect nothing. School was not self-improvement. It was a survival route with no expiration date. The mothers who pushed hardest were often the ones who had been denied the chance themselves. Number 17. Keep your house ready for company at all times. The doorbell could ring at any hour, and your mother was not about to let someone walk into a messy living room. Floors stayed swept. Surfaces stayed wiped. The good towels in the bathroom were not for your hands. In black households across the South and the urban North, a clean home was a public statement. It said this family has standards. She did not wait for Saturday to clean. She cleaned every day, and she expected every child in the house to do the same. The lesson had nothing to do with dust. It was about readiness and about the pride that came from knowing your home could welcome anyone at any moment without apology. Number 16. Learn to cook before you think about anything else. This was the skill your mother treated as non-negotiable. Before you learned to drive, before you worried about a job, before you thought about leaving home, you learned how to feed yourself. Girls learned younger, but boys were not exempt. A child who could not make a pot of rice, fry an egg, or season a piece of chicken had no business talking about independence. Cooking was taught by standing next to your mother and watching her hands. No recipe card, no measuring cup, just a little bit of this and enough of that, until your tongue told you it was right. She was raising someone who would never go hungry because they never learned to use a stove. Number 15. Carry yourself like you are somebody. Slouching was corrected on the spot. Mumbling earned a sharp look and a sharper word. Your mother told you to stand up straight, look people in the eye, and walk like you had somewhere important to be. In a country that spent enormous effort telling black children they were less than, your mother countered that message every single morning before you left the house. She adjusted your collar. She checked your shoes. She looked you in the face and told you that you were somebody, and she expected you to move through the world accordingly. Posture was her protest. Presentation was her rebuttal. Number 14. Church on Sunday was not optional. The alarm went off early. The clothes were already pressed from the night before. Breakfast was quick, and there was no negotiation about whether you felt like going. You were going. In black communities, Sunday morning anchored the entire week. But church was far more than a worship service. It was the only institution in many neighborhoods that was fully owned and operated by the community itself. The deacons managed money. The Mothers' Board settled disputes that never reached a courtroom. Every child in the building watched how adults organized, debated, and governed without a single outside authority telling them how. Your mother took you there because the lessons inside that building were the ones no school system had any interest in delivering. How to sit still when you were restless. How to listen to someone older and take what they said seriously. How to shake hands firmly and look an adult in the eye. When a family relocated to a new city, the first thing the mother did was find a church home. Not because she was chasing salvation on a schedule, because she was looking for a network, a support system, and a place where her children would be known by name. She made sure you were in that pew every single Sunday, dressed and sitting up straight, even when you had every reason not to be. Number 13. Do not cry in front of strangers. This did not mean tears were forbidden. It meant there was a time and a place for them, and that place was not the sidewalk, the store, or the schoolyard. Your mother taught you to hold your composure until you were home, behind a closed door, where the people who loved you could see your pain without turning it into a weapon. In a world that already viewed Black emotion through a distorted lens, public tears were a vulnerability she weighed carefully and rejected. She was not teaching coldness. She was teaching awareness. Know where you are and who is watching before you let yourself feel out loud. The children who absorbed that lesson built an inner stillness that strangers often mistook for toughness. Their mothers knew better. Number 12. Save something every single week. It did not matter how small the amount. A quarter dropped into a jar on top of the refrigerator. A folded bill tucked between the pages of a Bible. Your mother saved, and she taught every child in the house to do the same. This was not a lesson about interest rates. It was a reflex she built into you by repetition. Black families who had been turned away from banks, denied loans, and charged higher prices for the same goods learned to build their own safety nets one coin at a time. The jar on the kitchen counter was proof that no matter how tight things got, this household still had something set aside. That reflex traveled with the children who learned it. Number 11. Return what you borrow, and return it in better condition than you received it. If a neighbor lent your mother a casserole dish, that dish came back clean, dry, and filled with something she had cooked herself. If she borrowed a cup of sugar, she returned sugar and then some. This was not a transaction. It was a social contract, and your mother held both sides of it without exception. She taught her children the same standard. Bring the book back with no bent pages. Wipe down the tool before you walk it across the yard. Never let someone regret lending to your family. The lesson reached past the objects themselves. It was about trust. You protected your name one borrowed item at a time. Number 10. You represent this family the moment you walk out that door. This sentence carried more weight than any other lesson on this list. Your behavior at school, on the bus, at the corner store, at a friend's dinner table was not yours alone. It belonged to your last name. A teacher's complaint about your conduct was not a personal failing. It was a family matter, and your mother made certain you understood the difference before you were old enough to fully grasp why it mattered so deeply. In neighborhoods where families were known by how their children carried themselves in public, that reputation was worth more than anything money could replace. Number 9. Never beg anybody for anything. Your mother would stretch the groceries, take on extra shifts, borrow quietly from a sister or an aunt before she let one of her children stand in front of somebody with an open hand. Begging was not about poverty. It was a posture, and it was a posture she refused to pass down. If you needed something you could not afford, you worked for it, waited for it, or learned to go without. No shame lived in having less. The shame, she taught, was in letting the outside world see you plead for what your own effort could eventually provide. That line between needing and begging was thin, and she walked it every day without ever letting her children see her stumble. Number 8. Take care of your brothers and sisters. The oldest child in a 1960s Black household did not just share a bedroom with younger siblings. That child shared the weight. When your mother left for work before sunrise, the oldest was in charge. That meant heating up breakfast, settling arguments, making sure homework got finished, and keeping every younger child alive and accounted for until she walked back through that door. This was not babysitting. There was no pay, no set end time, and no option to decline. In families where both parents worked long hours or where a father was absent, the oldest child functioned as a second parent, starting as early as 9 or 10 years old. You packed lunches, you braided hair, you walked the little ones to school and stood at the gate when the bell rang in the afternoon. If a sibling scraped a knee while your mother was gone, you answered for it. The weight of that responsibility shaped an entire generation of eldest children into protectors who never fully stopped looking after the people around them. Your mother did not hand you that role because she was careless. She handed it to you because you were the person she trusted most with the only thing she could not afford to lose. Number 7. Be grateful for what you have. Your mother did not allow jealousy to settle in her house. If the neighbor's child had new shoes and you did not, the conversation was brief. Be happy for them and be thankful for what is on your feet. Envy was not punished with anger, it was redirected with clarity. She taught you to look at what was in your hands, not at what someone else was carrying, and to understand that wanting what belonged to another person was a trap that never closed on its own. Gratitude in a 1960s Black household was not a pleasant feeling you waited to arrive. It was a discipline you practiced every day, whether you felt it or not. Number 6. Mind your manners at somebody else's table. If you were invited to eat at a friend's house, you sat down quietly, you said grace if they said grace, and you ate whatever was served without a single comment about the taste or the portion. You did not ask for seconds unless they were offered. You did not compare the cooking to what your mother made at home. And you did not leave that chair until the meal was finished and the host said you could go. Your mother prepared you for that moment with clear instructions delivered before you walked out the door and the understanding that every detail of your behavior would travel back to her kitchen by sundown. A child with good table manners in someone else's home was living proof that somebody back home was paying close attention. Number 5. Do not put your hands on other people's belongings. This rule applied everywhere without exception. At the store, your hands stayed at your sides. At a friend's house, you did not open drawers or cabinets that were not yours to open. At church, you kept your fingers off what did not belong to you. Your mother enforced this with a grip on your wrist and a voice low enough that only you could hear the correction. A black child reaching for merchandise on a department store shelf in the 1960s did not receive the benefit of curiosity. That child got watched, followed, and sometimes accused before a single word left their mouth. She taught you to keep your hands visible and still, not because she questioned your honesty, but because she knew the world was already prepared to question it for you. Number 4. Work twice as hard as everybody else. Your mother did not say this once. She said it so many times it stopped sounding like advice and started sounding like the weather. It was simply the condition of the air inside your house. In a country where a black worker with the same skills and the same experience was routinely passed over, your mother understood that equal effort produced unequal results. So she raised the bar at home. Your homework was not just done. It was done correctly. Your chores were not just completed. They were completed thoroughly. If you brought home a B, she wanted to know why it was not an A. This was not perfectionism for its own sake. It was preparation for a system that graded black performance on a steeper curve and offered no appeals process. She could not change the curve. So she changed what you brought to it. Every extra hour at the kitchen table, every rewritten assignment was her way of building a margin into your future that no institution was going to provide. She was raising you to be so far past the line that ignoring you would cost more effort than recognizing what you brought to the room. Number 3. Never let them see you struggle. This was the quietest lesson and the heaviest one to carry. Your mother smiled at work while her feet ached. She greeted the landlord warmly when the rent was not all there. She sat in the school office and spoke in measured tones while a teacher questioned her child's ability. She never let them see it. Not the exhaustion, not the anger, not the fear that kept her awake after the house went dark. And she expected you to learn the same. In a decade when Black vulnerability was met with indifference at best and punishment at worst, showing struggle to the wrong audience was a risk she measured and refused. Composure was not the absence of feeling. It was the choice about who deserved to witness it. Number 2. Forgive, but remember. Your mother did not hold grudges in front of her children, and she did not let them cultivate grudges of their own, but she also never pretended that harm had not landed. She taught a balance that most grown people still struggle to maintain. Release the bitterness, but keep the knowledge it left behind. Remember who showed you exactly who they are. Remember what happened when trust went unchecked. Forgiveness was grace. Memory was protection. She practiced both without contradiction, and she expected her children to understand that those two things could stand together in the same room without canceling each other out. The mothers who forgave the most were often the ones who remembered the most clearly. Number 1. Love the people in this house as hard as you can, because none of this is promised. The last lesson circles back to the first. Number 25 was about making yourself known when you enter a room. Number 1 is about what you say to the people already in that room while you still have the chance. Your mother loved loudly. She loved through correction, through sacrifice, through every rule and every raised eyebrow on this list. She loved by holding you to a standard the outside world was never going to set for you. No school curriculum ever included a chapter on how to love a family so fiercely that every child who left that house carried the lessons for decades. These lessons came with no credits and no ceremony. They were passed from a mother's voice to a child's memory in kitchens that smelled like cornbread and pine sol, and they outlasted every report card ever printed. No diploma hangs on the wall for what she taught. No ceremony marked the day her children finally understood what every correction and every quiet sacrifice was building toward. These 25 lessons were a curriculum written in real time by women who carried a world on their shoulders and never once asked for credit. Which of these lessons hit closest to home for you?